Acharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. Friends, often we wonder what is the greatest secret in our life or everybody's life. This Lord Krishna had told in 9th chapter that idam tu guhyatam, that is the greatest of the secret I'll teach. And almost through 7 chapters, he has taught this greatest chapter. And now we are coming into the 15th chapter. What is the greatest thing we want to know? Just pause for a moment and think about it. As a human being, what is that we want to know? Why we are blessed with this greatest, or what do you call, the highest intellect? Like, unlike other animals which cannot think and which cannot plan, what we call seek purushartha, etc., we can see, we can plan, we can think ahead, back, future, etc. Why is it that God has blessed us with this? I just want to share this Sufi's story. Once, a mystic was going in Arab. There usually, normally, every Friday and things like that, they'll be giving alms to needy people, and there will be, in the villages, there will be a sort of congregation, and usually these mystics move from one village to another, and when they're allowing into the feast, usually they ask, as it's commonly custom in Arab, like, who are you, from which village, and what is your father, and which clan you belong, and things like that. And they kept on asking. Then this great mystic master was wondering, like, how sad it will be if I don't know who I am. Everything, whatever intellectual ability, whatever money I've made, whatever things we have made, would be not worthwhile if I don't know who I am. This is the greatest secret which we want to know. And perhaps knowing this will dissolve all the problems which we encounter. And that is perhaps the most important goal of human life. And that is why the human being is designed by God the way he is designed. This Atato Brahma Jignasa, the greatest secret is this knowledge. And what is this knowledge? The wise one knows that he alone shines. That is, this is from Dakshinamurti Stotra. God alone shines through the world, Nana Chitra Gatatara, through all the sense organs, through mind, everything. He alone blesses everything in the being. Knowing this is perhaps the greatest secret. And we have this mind as an instrument to know this. Just like how a crystal shines and reflects the light, our mind reflects this all conscious Brahman. We all know that Brahma light in the crystal is not original, it is reflecting, but to many it looks like as if the uh, diamond crystal is having the light. Similarly, our body mind complex is not sentient, it is just reflecting the God or Brahman as if, and appearing as if we are sentient or this body is sentient. This is a first verse, or one of the greatest verses from Ishavasya Upanishad. It starts from Ishavasya idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat ena taktena bunjitaha ma grida kashya sviddanam. Perhaps this one verse encompasses the whole chapter 15 we are studying. I'll just give you a clue. Ishavasya, Isha, the Lord, or the Purushottama, or Purusha, ultimate Purusha. Idam Sarvam, he envelops, or everything, in fact, is living inside him. He envelops Idam Sarvam. And everything is one. Yat kinchit degatyam jagat. And then, in spite of knowing all this, Mahagridha Dhanam, we try to hoard things, we get attached to unnecessary things. And these, all the four concepts of this, what we are learning, that is Purushottama Yoga, that is chapter 15, that is the description of Brahman, Purushottama, the cause of samsara, and one of the main sadhanas, that is Vairagyam, not having attached to worldly things, and Sarvatmakatvam. All these four can be condensed in one verse. So essentially, we can say that chapter 15th is the expansion of this one verse. Now, what we will do is, instead of one monotonous talk after another, we will alternate these four concepts between me and Satya. Now, I request Satya to speak about first 6 verses, which essentially talk about samsara, the tree. Satya.
Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Today we will be going through Bhagvadgita chapter 15, Purushottama Yoga. This chapter is supposed to be the peak of Gita. This is same as Kshetrajna of chapter 13 and Gunatita of chapter 14. And this is that which is none other than Brahman or Atma. This chapter contains essence of the Upanishads, mainly the Kathopanishad, Mundakopanishad, and Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 8. Next slide. Chapter 15, Purushottama Yoga, is an important and popular chapter of the Gita. There are only 20 verses in this particular chapter, and it is often used as a prayer verse before taking food. I will let you know why it is chanted before meals. Samsara is entanglement in the web of anatma by losing sight of atma tattvam in ourselves. In this chapter, the first 2.5 verse describes samsara so that seeker will know samsara nivrutti, which is nothing but moksha. And moksha is freedom from samsara. Only when the seeker understands the value of moksha, he will turn his attention to the means of attaining moksha. The value of the value for the means is directly proportional to the value of the end. And to describe this samsara, Krishna compares samsara to a huge peepal tree or ashwatha tree. Ashwatha here means which is constantly changing. Next slide. The world is a mixture of pleasure and pain. Next slide. Someone has very nicely said, life is between B and D. That is between B and D. B and D is C. What is C? C is choice. If a person is able to understand the mystery of life, then the person will be able to live and survive in the same world without being adversely affected by painful aspects of the world. And Swamiji says that the solution is the mastery of mind. The weak mind is the cause of bondage, and the strong mind is the cause of liberation. Before we get into the verse proper, let me remind you the fundamental laws of Vedanta. The first fundamental law of Vedanta we have seen in earlier sessions is I am different from whatever I experience. Whatever I experience is anatma. I am Atma. This anatma viveka is which is discrimination, and this has been discussed previously in chapter 13 as kshetrajna viveka also. The second fundamental law is all attributes or gunas I experience belongs to the experienced object and not to me, the experiencer, the subject or the Atma. I am gunatitha, with no gunas, as we have seen in 14th chapter. I, as Atma, am nirguna. So this chapter, Purushottama Yoga, can be divided into subtopics. Samsara Varnanam that is description of samsara. The next subtopic is Moksha Sadhanani, the spiritual disciplines leading to liberation. Brahmana Sarvatma Katvam, that is Brahman in the form of everything. Brahmanaha Purushottama Tvam, that is Brahman being Purushottama. And lastly, Brahma Jnana Phala, the benefits of knowledge of Brahman. Our attention in this chapter is to clearly know who is this Purushottama. The chapter begins with comparison of samsara to Ashwatha tree. This comparative analogy of samsara to Ashwatha tree has already been done in Kathopanishad also. Swamiji has described 10 common features listed like this. Both are huge and vast. That is Mahatvam. The next attribute he says is Adi Antarahitam. The beginning and the end of both are not traceable because it is a cyclic process. Anirvachaniyatvam, logically uncategorizable. Is it a cause or effect? Is it a fate or a free will? We do not know. We call it Maya. Moolatvam, this has got root. The support of the tree is invisible root, and Bhagavan also is invisible. Shakatvam, branches at different levels in the tree. So is higher, middle, and lower lokas in the universe. Pranavatmam, full of leaves. As leaves have photosynthesis, Karmakanda protect samsara and generate karma phalam. Phalavatvam bears fruits which can be sweet, sour, or mixed. Samsara vriksha gives sukha, dukkha, or mixed phalani. The next is Ashrayavatvam, nesting site for birds. Similarly, the jivas nestle in the Swarga, Manusha, or Adholokas. The next is Chalanavatvam, movement brought about by powerful wind. Similarly, the samsara tree are swayed by the wind of prarabdha karma. Then lastly, Chedyatvam can be uprooted. Similarly, the huge samsara can be uprooted with the dispassion which come with jnanam. Now let us see verse 15.1. In this verse, Lord Krishna speaks of the eternal Ashwatha tree which is upside down with its roots above and branches below. Its roots are going upwards, that is Urdhva Moolam, originating from God, nourished and supported by Him. The trunk and branches which are extending downwards, Adha Shakam, encompass all the life forms from different abodes of the material realm. Its leaves are Vedic mantras, the Chandasi, which describes rituals, ceremonies, and its rewards. The leaves nourish the material existence of the soul and perpetuate the continuous cycle of life and death. Due to this continuity, the beginning and the end are not experienced by the souls. Hence, this tree form of the world is avyayam or eternal. The intention of describing this tree in the Vedas was to make us understand that we are beyond the cycle of life and death and we should work towards cutting this tree down. For the same purpose, Lord Krishna has mentioned that one who understands the secret of cutting the tree of samsara is the knower of Vedas. So how this universe and Ashwatthana tree is compared? We have seen roots, the Urdhva Moolam compared to Brahman. Branches, the Adhama Shakam is compared to Lokas. Leaves, the Karma Kanda of leaf, Vedas, and fruits to the pleasure and pain, and birds, the Jiva, are all sentient beings. In the next verse, 15.2, Lord Krishna goes on to explain that while in the human form, the soul performs the karmas, which is the trunk of the tree and its branches, the shakas, expand both upward and downward. Based on how the soul performed in its past and present form, it is reborn. If it led a virtuous life, when reborn, it moves to the upward branches which donate celestial abodes. In case the soul was involved in sinful act, in the next birth, it gets degraded to downward branches which are for the animal species. Similar to how water irrigates a tree, the three modes of material nature or the three gunas irrigate this eternal tree of material existence. The sense objects generated by these gunas are like buds in the tree which sprout, causing further growth or material desires. To satiate these desires, a living being performs karma, but these desires are unending and keep on increasing. Eventually, the soul further gets entangled into the web of material consciousness. Next slide. So, Brahman is compared to primary root of samsara tree. the entire visible universe to the trunk and branches. The Karma Kanda, which is the ritualistic part of the Vedas, to the leaves which perpetuate the Samsara Vriksha. Mulani Anusantatani. The secondary roots are spread all over, and those are Raga Dvesha. Karmanu Bandhini. The consequence of Raga Dvesha Vasanas are the varieties of karmas. Hereafter, from second half verse of verse 15.3, Lord Krishna has revealed the requirements for the process of surrender. And surrendering to the Supreme Lord, who is at the base of this enigmatic Ashwatha tree. Samsara Nivritti Upaya he gives. And for this, Krishna talks about 4 methods or 4 disciplines. The first step is Asanga or Vairagyam. Next, he talks about Parimagitavyam or Vedanta Vichara, inquiry into the root of Samsara Vriksha. Next, he tells Prapadyate, meaning Sharanagati or surrender to devotion. And lastly, he talks about Sadguna or developing a healthy, refined mind. This huge tree can be cut with dispassion, says Lord Krishna. The remedy for the soul's never ending suffering is detachment. And the acts of detachment can cut the roots of desires which are nourished by the 3 modes of material nature. The Lord explains that this acts of detachment can only be developed with the knowledge of self. With the detachment, one can stop further growth of the tree roots, and due to lack of nourishment, the tree starts to wither. Therefore, only way to cut down this Ashwatha tree is by totally surrendering to Supreme Lord and take his refuge. The real form of this tree is not perceived in this world, neither its beginning nor end nor its continued existence. But this deep-rooted Ashwatha tree must be cut down with the strong acts of detachment. Then one must search out for the base of the tree, which is the Supreme Lord, from whom streamed forth the activity of universe a long time ago. Upon taking refuge in him, one will not return to this world again. So in the verse 15.15, Krishna says, those who are free from vanity and delusion, who have overcome the evil of attachment, who dwell constantly on self and on God, who are free from the desire to enjoy the senses and are beyond the dualities of pleasure and pain, such liberated personalities attain my eternal abode. This verse talks about the values or sadgunas for developing a healthy, refined mind. These values are freedom from pride, freedom from delusion, conquering evil of attachment, committed to spiritual pursuit, free from desires, and ability to withstand opposites. Next slide. Brahman is the original consciousness, body-mind complex is the reflecting medium, and the Jiva is the reflected consciousness. This we have seen earlier also. And freedom from samsara can be achieved by a strong, firm mind through the weapon of asanga or vairagyam. That is what the phrase here in the verse used is asanga sastrena dridhena chitva. So how to develop this strong, firm mind? So we have seen Krishna mentioning 4 mandatory sadhanas. First being dispassion or vairagyam. This is freedom from addiction to become gunatita, as we saw in 14th chapter. Sharanagati or bhakti, the surrender to devotion, accepting choiceless situations. Sadguna, that is refined mind, accepting choiceless situation and developing virtues that are conducive to the Vedanta for spiritual growth, as we saw in 13th chapter. And lastly, Vedanta Vichara or the study of Vedantic scripture for a length of time under a competent guru. With all this knowledge, our daily prayer should be, O Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Out of 4 sadgunas, as samsara nivritti upaya, vairagya, sharanagati, and sadguna will make one jnana yogyata, whereas the Vedanta vichara is actually nothing but jnana yoga. So the primary sadhana, ours, remains jnana yoga, that is Vedanta vichara, and secondary sadhana will be to be yogya, ajnana yogyata. So far, from samsara nivritti upaya, firstly, we go through karma yoga, that is mala nivritti, and then we step up to upasana yoga, vikshepa nivritti. Then comes shravanam, ajnana nivritti, mananam, samshaya nivritti, and then lastly nitidhyasanam or viparyaya nivritti. With these steps, we attain from karma yoga to upasana yoga to jnana yoga and then liberation. Verse 15.6 says, Krishna says here, neither the sun nor the moon nor the fire can illumine that supreme abode of mine. Having gone there, one does not return to this material world again. This verse is Brahma Lakshana Shloka. This is an important definition of Brahman based on Upanishadic mantra occurring in Kathopanishad and Mundakopanishad. Krishna points out that Brahman is the pure consciousness which is formless and all-pervading entity which objectifies everything and cannot be objectified by anyone. That consciousness, that witness Chaitanyam is actually Brahman. We have Dr. Kiran coming back to explain further verses.
Dr. Satyanarayan has explained the problems of the samsara. It is from fluctuating from merry-go-round to sorry-go-round. It is a mixture of pleasure and pain. Like this picture we see from the Chinmaya school of the that our life is more or less like this. A man is hanging from a tree, and elephant is trying to shake the tree and bring him down, and you see the rats, they're nibbling the branches, and down snake. In between all that, there is a beehive, and somebody has hit the beehive with a stone, and bees is about to bite him. And before that, small drops or honey is coming, and he is tasting that and enjoying. So more or less, many of our life is like this. How to get rid of this? That is what we have been learning. Initially, Satyanarayana explained few qualifications, and now the main part of the teaching we are learning, that is Vedanta Vichara. Who are we, and what is our relationship with God, and how this knowledge can liberate us. This is what we are going to learn. And these are the spiritual disciplines which we just now learned. And I just want to take over from previous verse, that is, which talks about nature of Brahman. That is, it talks about pure consciousness, which is all ever love. That is, it is the light of the lights. It is the unobjectifiable subject. That is, he is the ever seer and never the seen. He is the Sakshi, through which all we know comes into being, comes into existence. There is no other, you can't say like, what is the cause of this, what is the cause of this. It keeps on going back and back. Like, for example, if you have one object, what it is made up of, it is made up of some molecules, matter, etc. Then you ask what is the matter made up of, then you will say atom, then electron, proton, everything. And ultimately there is something, and ultimately you say energy, quantum particle, wave, etc. Ultimately what that is made up of, where all these questions stop, that is where God begins. Like, for example, I'm seeing you. How I'm seeing? I'm seeing with my eyes. And how my eyes are becoming seen? Because mind is there behind. Who reflects the mind? Intellect. And who makes this intellect come into being? Like that, it goes on asking. then the ultimate thing, that is the light of all the lights, the consciousness of the conscious, just because of whom even the deities which we see and worship comes into being. This is called the light of the light. He is the ultimate revealer. He is the Chidrupam Brahman. He is the Aprameyam. It is beyond all instruments. And he is the Satyam Gnanam Anantam Brahman. This is what we learned previously. Let us go forward. This is the Brahma, Sarvatmatvam. Mamaiva Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. This is a Jiva description. He says, from me alone, all the world comes into being. How is the world? This is through the sense organs, but I just now described the sense organs are just some, golakas, or what we call and matter. For example, eyes by itself does not see. It is the mind which transmits and sends the waves through which the eye sees. Ultimately, from eyes it goes to the brain, and then it is whatever we see is manifested. uh, there is one medical condition where there is, after a stroke, that part of the brain which controls this vision becomes non-function. Then the eyes will be fully functioning, but patient will not be able to see anything. He will say, I can see, but if you ask him what you are seeing, he cannot describe, and he confabulates things. That's why even beyond this mind, what is there, that is what is called as Brahman. And what through the organs of experience we are seeing, that is called as Jagat. And the experiencer, that is the mind body complex with Brahman or Atma, is the Jiva. That is what he has told in this 15 points, a very important verse. And he goes on to say that the Chaitanya Pratibimba, that is this reflected consciousness, that is the body mind complex with the Atma, this is what is the Jiva. And when does the Jiva begin? It is Anadi. When does ignorance begin? It is Anadi. Since when I don't know Chinese? Many generations I don't know Chinese. Like that, he says. And then let us understand this with some examples. How the seer and see. Is he like a carpenter and wooden, or a clay and the potter? Here, the potter is sitting somewhere else and he is making. That is, he is the intelligent cause and material is somewhere else. Is he like that? No. Because ultimately, before, when we analyze, at the beginning, there was nothing else other than Brahman. So, he himself is the intelligent cause, he himself is the material cause, and from him it has come. Like a gold and bangle, it is inseparable. And what is this reflecting medium? Mind is the reflecting medium. Just like how we see these children are playing, they throw a light and the light is reflected to another and they're enjoying. Similarly, as I told, the mind reflects things as a capacity to reflect this consciousness. And just like how a crystal reflects the light and appears as if it is light is coming from itself, it gives an appearance that this body mind complex, or in short, this mind itself, is sentient and bubbling with life. In short, this mind is borrowed this conscious from the Brahman or the God or the Ishvara, and then is seeing the world and is experiencing and is enjoying, is crying, everything, and is doing all these karmas. This is the original consciousness, reflecting medium, and is the receiver. And similar to another, through the pinhole, you are seeing the screen. That is how it is. It is reflected. And God is the original consciousness. And just like how, when take an example of I'm looking at the mirror, you see an image, and the mirror is the reflecting medium. Is that mirror image real? No, because once you the seer or the person reflected is removed, there is no reflection in the mirror. Similarly, if in all the scheme of things, if we remove God, there is nothing else to see, nothing else to do. In fact, there is no seer at all. So whatever we are made, ultimately it is the God which is See, through the reflecting medium, that is how pure our mind is, how pure our uh, organs are, that is body mind complex, we are able to perceive things. If my mood is bad, everybody appears to be bad and they're getting on me. If I am in a very good mood, I've got a great promotion, even the beggar looks like some, good person, and we give 100 rupees note to him. This is how our mind reflects things and qualifies it, and that is the result of karmas. Just like how this mirror, different kinds of mirror makes the same person appear different. This is how the world is appearing differently. And the mind is the master of the sense organs. As I told different previously, if I see through the eyes, it is ultimately it is goes to the mind, who's the seer in this case. And another example is if we take electricity as the original consciousness and the bulb, that filament as the sukshma sharira, subtle body, and the bulb itself as the stula sharira. When the light passes through the bulb current, we see the light glowing, and something happens and this fuse is gone. Then the light is not coming, but still the current is there. Similarly, if our body drops for some reason or karma is exhausted, the subtle body and the original consciousness, nothing happens because there is no appropriate reflecting medium, that is the body mind complex. It is not manifested. However, this original consciousness encompasses sarvatmatkam. That means it is there everywhere in living being, non-living being, everything. It is only in the difference in the reflecting medium. Just like crystal lights up, whereas the water or mirror does not light up. This is how we see different ways, because it is the difference in the medium. Ultimately, it is Brahman who is manifested can be called as Jiva. There is no difference between the two. And the world based on this can be divided into Jiva, that is the one who experiences, and Jagat, that is what is experienced. Next, he goes on to say, this Lord, Shariram Yadapnoti, when he leaves the body, as I've described, that means he does not leave. The instrument or the reflecting medium is not capable of reflecting. That's why that body no longer is useful. The subtle body moves around based on the karma from one in search of the suitable body. Once the rest of the karma, which is fructified, appropriate body is, it appears in it. That is how it happens. This is the subtle body. This is what I have described. When the bulb is broken, nothing happens to the current. So another bulb you replace it, it lights up. That is what will happen to our lives. If we are spiritually evolved, as we see the girls standing one above the other, we reach to the higher, somebody who's a well qualified person like Sri Ramana Maharshi, etc., who already have done sadhana. Like that, we move from one body to another. And ultimately, it is the original consciousness, that is Ishvara alone, who is seeing everything. He is the karma pala data. And like if you see a photograph, you know the photographer is there. You don't have to tell that, oh, no, for photo, who is the photographer? Similarly, if Jagat is there, God is there. There is nothing to be, you have to ask some question. There are some atheists who ask, what is the, how God came, where is God, etc. It is understood. If world is there, all this difference, it can't happen by itself. So there is God is there. And this verse is almost like Kenopashod, Pratibodha Viditam Matam. That is resorting to through the sense organs, he experiences all the world. That is how he does. And every Jagat, everything in the object is reflected of him only. Pratibodha Viditam Matam. Every moment of life reveals Brahman, as every letter that you read in a book reveals the presence of light. Then next he goes, the deluded ones does not recognize him, and hence he resides in the body and have the wisdom recognized. And ultimately it is I alone, that is Gnana Chakshura, who sees everything. And the deluded ones do not recognize this and then suffer. And just like how if dog is biting the bone, and ultimately the little blood comes through his mouth, but he tastes it as if the blood is coming from the bone and keeps on biting it. Similarly, we think that this world is giving us pain and pleasure, but it is not. Ultimately, it is our own thing, the way we see it, which is giving the pleasure and pain. And when you look at the mirror, it is your own face which is there, and there is nothing wrong in the mirror. And therefore, learn to look at the man behind the mirror. And when you see that God, world behind the God, then we see everything. Thank you very much. Next.
From this verse, there is a shift again. In the previous verses, Lord Krishna explains his manifestation as Chetana Prapancha. Now, he explains his manifestation as Achetana Prapancha also, or the world outside. The cause alone manifests itself in all the effects, like gold in all the ornaments. Brahman being the cause and Prapancha being its effect. In 12th to 15th verse, we are going to see that Brahman alone manifests in the form of Jagat. Brahmane Jagat Rupena Vartante. This is the very goal of all human beings, to know that Brahman is the essence, the reality behind all the experiences. In the following four verses, the immanence of the Lord is described as the illuminating light of the consciousness, as all sustaining life, as subjective warmth of life in all living beings, as a self in all the hearts. In this verse, Krishna says, know that I am like brilliance of sun that illuminates the entire solar system. The radiance of the moon and the brightness of the fire also come from me. Next slide. Brahman is described in Upanishad as, next slide please. So Brahman is described in Upanishad as Jyotisamsh Jyotihi, meaning light of all lights. In this 12th verse, we get to see Brahman as all illuminating light. World gets illumined in the morning by sunlight and in the night by moonlight. They both get illumined by the eyes, and when the eyes are closed, Buddhi illumines the inner world of thoughts. Buddhi in turn gets illumined by self-luminous Atma, and that is you. Lord Krishna points out that Brahman alone appears or manifests in the form of the world. Brahman is the only substance. Brahman is both insentient and sentient, just like nails are being insentient are part of sentient being. If one thinks that there is a substance called ornament, it is a delusion. No, previous slide. There is no substance called ornament. The substance is only gold. Brahman manifests in this world just as gold present in all the ornaments. Brahman alone is the reality behind all the experiences. Next slide. Electricity being one and same, but it manifests differently based on different appliances. Electricity expresses as light in the bulb, heat in the heater, rotation in fan. So too, same consciousness expresses through sun, manifesting as sunlight, through moon as moonlight, and expresses as heat in the fire. Next verse. In verse 15.13, Krishna says, permeating the earth, I nourish all living beings with my energy. Becoming the moon, I nourish all plants with the juice of life. Next slide. First, Krishna says he is sun. Then he says he is the energy in the moon also. I myself become the moonlight. I nourish the plant kingdom by these energies. According to the Shastras, moonlight also provides lot of energy to the plants. Some farmers even expose the seed to moonlight before sowing them to get a better yield. One interesting thing we can observe here is Bhagavan first said he is sun, which is very far. Then he said he is moon, which is little closer. Then he said he is in the fire, which is much closer. And lastly, the earth. He comes closer and closer. Likewise, our spiritual journey also. Initially, we think God is in Vaikunta or Kailasa or in heaven. As we move forwards in our spiritual journey, We get to know God is here and everywhere. And lastly, we know that all the Chetana and Achetana Prapancha is God alone. 14th verse, Lord Krishna says, "It is I who take the form of the fire of digestion in the stomachs of all living beings and combine with the incoming and outgoing breaths to digest and assimilate the four kinds of foods." Next slide. This verse talks about Agni Shakti. Agni Shakti can be divided into Bahya Agni and Antaragni. Bahya Agni is external fire that cooks raw food into 6 types of tastes. We have various tastes. Okay, that is Bahya Agni. Now coming on to the Antara Agni, which is also called as Jatara Agni, which is fire within stomach, or also called Vaishvanar Agni. It is a digestive fire or the internal fire. I myself, the digestive fire, residing the body of every being, supports the digestion and transforms the food with the help of prana, the inhalation, and apana, the exhalation, which combines to form samana. Therefore, it is apt to worship before every meal and offer food to this Vaishvanar Agni. That is why initially I said this chapter is chanted before every meal. This digestive fire assimilates 4 types of food. Bhakshyam, the solid food like those which are chewed like fruits. Bhojyam, those that are directly swallowed like liquid food like milk, soup, coffee. Lehyam, which can be licked and consumed. Viscous like honey, pickle. And the fourth one, Choshyam, which is suckable like sugarcane or payasam. So we should be grateful to him, the Annadata, the sustainer of this planet. Lord Krishna refers to ungrateful person as thief, like those enjoying God's property without expressing gratitude to him. To conclude, self-effulgence Bhagavan is revealed as the brilliance in the sun and the moon at Samashti or the macrocosm level, and the Vaishvanar Agni, the digestive fire operating in all the animals at Vesti or, or microcosm level. So Krishna says, O Arjuna, appreciate me in the creation as Surya, Chandra, and Agni Shakti, and conclude the topic of this manifestation as Achetana Prapancha also. Verse 15.15, Krishna says, I am seated in the hearts of all living beings, and from me come memory, knowledge, as well as forgetfulness. I alone am to be known by all the Vedas. I am the author of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the meaning of the Vedas. This is the culmination verse of the previous verses we have seen. This verse is going to summarize where Krishna says, I am everything. There is a change in the meter in this verse, bringing our attention to slow down and pause at this important verse. Krishna declares that he is the subject matter of all the scriptures. All Vedic scriptures are only about Ishvara. Veda Purva is there, God with form, and Vedanta is about the formless infinite. He is the one to be known through the Vedas, which are also his creation. He is the knower of the Vedas. Sri Krishna is everything in this universe. He is the universe. The last part of this chapter, that is God in abstract symbolic forms, will be dealt by Dr. Kiran. Hari Om.
Thank you. We learned now that Ishvara or Ishvara Tattvam, let us use this terminology than God, because God has many Western connotations. Ishvara is in the world, or Ishvara is the world, we learned. It is very easy, If I say, okay, sun is Ishvara or God, you say, okay, yeah, because he's providing us with energy, everything. It's acceptable. Some says moon, because moon is also energy, and some says because the tides and other things, the crops, everything comes into thing. So that is acceptable. Somebody says if this world is God or Ishvara, we accept it, because we are living in dependent on Ishvara, and Ishvara is providing, this world is providing us with everything. This also we accept it. And somebody says this body, me, you, is Ishvara, it is little You can't say everything is, you look around as Jagat, everything is God, okay, we accept it. But if we say this body is Ishvara, it is little difficult to learn. Accept it. This is what we are going to learn now. That is from Sarvatma to Atma. That is, what is this real Purusha? Who is it? And what? This is why it is called as Brahmana Purushottama Tattvam. This is divided, just have little basic knowledge before we move into the verse proper. It is divided into Kshara, Akshara Purusha. Kshara Purusha, as we all know, is Jagat, or everything which is manifested, which is seen. So this is easy to understand. Next is, he is little different from Vedantic or Upanishadic teaching, where Akshara Purusha, he says. This Akshara Purusha is all unmanifested. That means which we can't see, which we can't feel. That is the energy. What Satyanarayana told, this Jatara Agni, that is the digestive power, this prana, this life, this energy of heartbeat, the breathing and digestion, mind, that energy which stimulates this mind. What is this? Is all we can divide into subtle thing or the causative into Akshara Purusha. This is not Akshara Brahman, this is Akshara Purusha divides. And third, who is this Uttama Purusha then? That we will learn now in this following verses. Dvamao Purusha Loke Kshara Akshara Evacha Kshara Sarvani Bhutani Kutastho Kshara Uchyate. The perishable and imperishable, these are two things Purushas in the world. Here, a Purusha means he is told as things, not like a seer. And these are perishable things and imperishable. That is Kutastha. It is different from what we learned in 9th chapter. That is, here what it means is Maya, or the Prakriti, the cause. That is what here he means, not the Brahman. And this is all coming from Prakriti. This has got Savikara, that is, this has got some form, and then it is changing. So these are all, that's why it is Mithya. What I see today, I may not be able to see tomorrow. The plant, you see flowers, tomorrow the flower won't be there. Similarly, you see some beings will disappear tomorrow. This is how Kshara Purusha, or manifested things. The invisible, as I told, the energy. This also is achetana. As I told before, this is just an energy. And this is also has some form, but we can't able to see. This is also divisible. This has got a starting, this has got an ending. That is why this is also Mithya. That is why it is called as Kutastha, or this is all coming from Maya or Prakriti. And last, the Uttama Purusha, that is the superior being from all this, is distinct because he is unchanging. Today, tomorrow, in the sphere of time, space is same. Like the closest example we can say is space. You can build a Taj Mahal out of it, it can break into it, and you can build some hut on it, but nothing happens to the space. Or light. Today, it illumines a beautiful painting. Tomorrow, it may illumine somebody who is robbing another, but that does not sully the light. So this is indivisible, and Nirvikalpa, it is same. It is the Satyam. This is called Purushottama. That this is the answer. Urdhva Moolam, that is the source which we learned in the first. What is that from which all beings came? This Purushottama is the one from which all the beings came. So this Upanishad from now on has a higher or Upanishadic flavor. And these are the only three things we need to do. That is Kshara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, and what is Uttama Purusha. And once we know what is this Uttama Purusha, we have known everything. Just like in Mundaka, who's asking, Kasminnu Bhagavo, what is that knowing which everything is known? If we know the essence, or what is this Uttama Purusha, everything will be known. And he says, different from this Uttama Purusha is different from the first two, that is Kshara, Akshara, and is not like 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and so on. This is this Uttama Purusha, the ultimate principle from which 1, 2, and many other things come. The Maya or the Jagat we saw will never be the same, and that is why if we try to understand it, we fall into samsara. What we need to do is we need to understand the principle which is unchanging. That is Ishvara, that is God, or that is the Uttama Purusha. This is the one who sustains all this, everything, the three world, and that is why he is called as Uttama Purusha. Then he is different, Anyaya. Even though he appears very close to us, just like is closer than our mind, is closer than our eyes. It's almost inseparable. Just like how a light in a crystal is inseparable, is like that, but still is different. That is why all karmas do not affect him, because the karma happens because of the ignorance and because of the reflecting medium, which says that I have to accumulate this, I have to like this, I don't, I want this, etc. Because of that, this body mind complex incurs this karma, and Uttama Purusha is beyond all this. And he pervades all the lokas and sustains, as we, through the energy, ojas, he sustains everything. And he is the basis, that is through Kutastha or the subtle body or the causal body, he sustains this world. And he is the real Uttama Purusha, or he is the real I who need to know. And once we know, this samsara appears like a natak, and all the, you know, sad or anger, everything starts disappearing. And यस्मात् क्षर अक्षरो अभिधीयते अतो अस्मि लोक वेद प्रथित पुरुषोत्तम. This is a very, very, very important verse. He says, I am beyond kshara, I am beyond akshara, so I am the Uttama Purusha, I am well known, that is Vede Pratitaha, that is knower of this Brahma with Apnoti Param. That is, if I know this Uttama Purusha, then I myself become Uttama Purusha. There's no difference between me and the Brahman. This is the verse which he talks about this. There is nothing like this. Uttama Purusha is some concept that I write and say somebody else or told, like creation philosophy, this is Uttama Purusha. No, you should recognize, I should recognize Uttam Purusha as myself. I am the Uttam Purusha. I should claim myself as Uttam Purusha. And I say, I am using this body-mind complex to experience this Jagat. That's what in previous was Sarvatmatakatam we learned that from 7th verse onwards, that through sense organ, body, mind, I experience this world. Like in Dakshinamurti Stotra, Nana Chitra Gatotara. Just like through the holes of the pot, all the light comes out. Through that, I experience this world. This is why I am the Purushottama, that is knower, Veda with, I am the ultimate, he says. Beyond this, that is, there is this third, that is Turiya. This is the Uttama Purusha. And he is the real foundation, he is the Adhar of everything. And through that we see, just like how there is no space between the space. That's what you can have many things in the space, but there is nothing beyond the space. That is like how you say, if I have this room, means that means there is always a space and through which I have built a room. And once this room is gone, space is there itself. There is nothing wrong. Similarly, nothing happens to the Brahman, whether this body comes, this body goes, another being comes, goes, nothing happens to Brahman. He is the ultimate, he is always there. And we should claim this Uttama Purusha as myself. And these are the important differences between Kshara, Kshara and Uttama. The Kshara Akshara is made up of matter, that is Jada, whereas Uttama is enlivening principle. Is Saguna, is Nirguna, is Mithya. Mithya means in some time concept, he appears as real, but he is not real. But the Uttama Purusha is Satyam, that is in all periods of time, place is same, there is unchanging. There's Savikara, that is always changing, Nirvikaram, unchanging, divisible, indivisible, and is perishable. Mind you, even subtle body is perishable. And only thing which is imperishable is Uttama Purusha. And once we know that this Uttama Purusha is not like grading, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, like that. This is the ultimate. Beyond is, nothing else is there. What is his nature? How is he, or how am I? He is immanent, Sarva Bhutani, and Sarvagata is all pervading. and he is Sarvadhisthana. That is, he is foundation, he is supporting everything. Just like how Atlas is supporting the world, he is supporting everything. Like water for wave or ocean. Both ocean is so big, macro, and some lake or is so small, but everything is water. And he is the cradle on which the whole cosmos and even space rests. And it is because of him the whole world comes into being, like a crystal shining brightly, reflecting the light. In his mere presence, this bundle of matter springs into life. And that is what he is saying. As I transcend the perishable and even higher, the imperishable, that is longer perishable, Akshara Purusha, I am the Purushottama. And the one who knows this, that is Vedavit, the knower, the seer, not the person who is doing or the ultimate Sakshi. He is the Aham Brahma Asmi. And this is what, that's why he says this knower becomes Brahma with Brahmaiva Bhavati. And knowing this is not like maths. I've learned this theorem ever. It is to become one, to understand, just like even in dark, I'm Kiran. Even in light, I'm Kiran. If somebody else says, oh, you're not Kiran, you are somebody else, you will say, no, get lost, I'm Kiran. Like that, you should know you are Brahman. Once you know this, you are Brahman, then everything else is relatively what is called as less or perishable and does not disturb us. Then there is nothing more to be known, nothing else to be done, nothing else to be achieved. And the what is the palam of this? That is sthita prajna. In all spheres, anything happens, any disturbance happens, we will be able to take it in our stride and be calm. Just like Lord Krishna throughout Kurukshetra, he was same. Whether Sudama comes and worships his feet, or whether Duryodhana comes, he is same. It's not like he's jumping with joy and on others he is same. That is what is the benefit of this Nana. And that is the achieve, you will achieve the fulfillment and meaningful life. And everything else we do is out of this gratitude and gratefulness that we have known this knowledge, we have known this Brahman, and we have known this world as nothing but what we see as a Brahman manifest. The undiluted, that is a wise person, he knows me as the Purushottama. He worships me wholeheartedly. That means this is Sharanagati. Through bhakti, he says, okay, I'm blessed. I thank Guru for this knowledge and how we are known to this. That person, he is the true enlightened one. And then he says, this Guhyatamam Shastram. That means this is the secret of the secret. Just now, you just imagine there's nothing else beyond, whether quantum mechanics or quantum physics. Nothing gives what this knowledge is imparted to me. Why he has given this to Arjuna? Because he is Anaga, the pure one, the qualified one. He asked for it. He didn't ask, oh, make me victory or give me that this. He just asked to give this knowledge. And that's why he has taught him, Etad Buddha. And once you know this knowledge, you are that. Then you are Krutakrutasya. That means our search ends and we are blessed to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful summary. Thank you, Dr. Kiran. Thank you, Dr. Satyanarayan ji. It was really wonderful. And now, if Dr. Hegde is there, would you like to say anything, Dr. Hegde?
Thanks, Sajani. Both Dr. Kiran and Dr. Satya have covered this most wonderful 15th chapter of the Bhagvadgita. This is a very short chapter and a very significant chapter. And the last line, as Kiran just explained, Sri Krishna says, "Oh Arjuna, I have revealed to you the greatest of all secrets. And if you have understood this, you will become completely fulfilled. There is nothing else." But then there seems to be a doubt in Krishna's mind. That's why he uses the word anaga. I have given you something so pure, so rarefied. And because that doubt enters in Sri Krishna's mind, this should have been the climax of the whole Bhagavad Gita. So we have two more chapters, that is the 16th and the 17th chapter, where Sri Krishna will say, elaborate on anaga. Anaga means the one who cannot become impure. So he brings in a lot of values in the 16th and the 17th chapter. And finally, the 18th chapter is a concluding summary. So we have reached actually the climax of the Bhagavad Gita. And now we will be, coming into a kind of a summary. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. And now we will open it up to questions. If there are any questions, kindly unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
I am Swami
Hari Om.
Narayanananda Saraswati from the School of Ancient Wisdom. I have a question to Dr. Kiran. Dr. Kiran, when we say asanga, unattached to anything, what exactly do we mean? From what we should be unattached?
As my understanding goes, Lord Krishna has previously alluded that when we say asangaha means it is unattachment. That means the main thing is unattachment to the fruits, the karma palam, or that is what drives this samsara. That means sankalpa. That means I want something to be like this. I want my child to be, doctor. I want the world to be like this. If it is not like this, I become unhappy. But asangaha means it is unattached. That means I do my duty, I accept as it is, I accept things they are. If that something does not give what it's supposed to be give, I say I accept it. Instead of me becoming unhappy to it, I accept it as it is. This is it. There is a misconception that means everything we have to leave and become a brahmacharis or take up sannyas and things like that. It is not like that. Wherever we should remember that, Lord Krishna is also Gruhastha, Arjuna is also Gruhastha, and whoever it is like Rama, everybody was Gruhastha. It is Asangaha means the unattached. Like he says, Vairagyam also is similarly, it is not that you give up everything. We should be able to, like how a lotus will be there in the water, but it does not get sullied by it. In the world also, we should be able to see the world, respond appropriately, but we should not get disturbed by it. That is what asangaha means, and that is what my understanding is. Because if you get attached to anything, then, for example, if I am very angry, then I think I will say I am angry. I will never say my mind is angry. But actually now we have learned that mind is not me. I am different from mind. But if I lose that, I become very angry. I say that I am angry. I never say that my mind is angry and I am the seer of the mind. No, that is why we should never give too much importance to anything. This is what I mean by, I understood by asangaha. You can clarify if you have to explain further, Swamiji.
Great, Dr. Kiran. It is very apt. And also in Bhagavad Gita, this a kind of what do you call this? I can like a simile. It is compared to a kind of shastra. Asanga, we could use it as a shastra, not as a missile, but as a shastra that we could carry in our hand. So asanga is in ourselves, isn't it? So it's all the texture of mind, how we, compare ourselves with the fellow beings and the world, right?
True. Yeah.
Great, Dr. Kiran. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your share.
Thank you. Any more questions? Kindly unmute and ask.
We can stop the screen share so that we'll see all the people in there.
Yes. Okay, kindly ask your questions now. Comments, suggestions, whatever.
If I can add something about this word asanga, Swamiji and Kiran have given their views. Now, supposing there is light on my hand So the light is falling on my hand, but if there is some dirt or if there is something on my hand, that does not affect the light. Why? Because light is asanga to my hand. So too, space can be described as asanga. The space has no form of attachment whatsoever. Like that, in us, there is something called this body mind, which is material. There is something what we in this chapter described as Uttama Purusha or Purushottama. The Purushottama is of a higher order of reality. The higher order of reality and the lower order, that means consciousness and matter, between them there is no relationship at all. So that is another understanding of asanga. Between them, there can be no relationship at all. So what does it mean to us? So in our transaction, although I am body-mind, I have to, as Dr. Kiran said, identify with your higher self. So I will see my mind is getting angry or my body is going through some pain, but I'm the illuminator of a painful body or an upset mind, but I am not upset, I am not in pain. So this is my understanding of asanga.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Timmappa Hegde. And also, we could add a few more thoughts on this. That asanga, I need to be unattached even with myself. That I, like, in our Atma Shatkam also we say, Chidananda Rupaha, Shivoham, Shivoham, Asangoham, 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 Punah, Punah, Satchidananda Rupoham, Ahameva, Advitiya. Meaning we need to cut asunder ourselves even with this I. That I know something, I have done something. This I itself, when it is negated, so there is nobody to claim anything that I have achieved so much. So there is no I, so maybe we are unattached. Right, Dr. Hegde?
Yes, Swamiji, very nice explanation. And you brought in that beautiful work, Asangoham, Asangoham, Asangoham Punah Punah. So that Satchidananda Rupa, that is a very beautiful song, like Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. All these are what are called Nidityasanam shlokas. Shlokas that help us to tell us that I'm not just this body mind, I am something much higher. And because of my sangha, because of my identification with the body mind, I suffer the limitations of body mind, although I am a sangha. So that's this is a nice question that you brought her, Swamiji, because our whole effort is to be in the world, but to be not affected by the world. Just like that example Dr. Kiran gave of the lotus in the water. You may be in slush, but you can bloom.
100% true.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to check just a couple of clarifications. When Dr. Kiran was talking about the mind, is that the Manomaya Kosha or the Vijnanamaya Kosha? The intellect that gets angry when we're not the mind, we're not this body. So I know that the Manomaya Kosha generally kind of just perceives. It interacts with the senses. Is it the Vijnanamaya Kosha that gets disturbed? How is it? Say mind.
Yeah, mind roughly translates as Manomaya Kosha and intellect. That's what we do. But, the concepts of what we understand as a scientifically as a mind and what we know in the Vedantic parlance as mind and what we know as, Vijnanamaya Kosha as intellect is not necessarily the same. That's why I often use the same term rather than we say mind. The mind, as we know, in scientifically we can say it is a primitive mind. That means like not the rational or thinking mind, just like what we call hippocampus or emotional thing, which just acts. That is what is the mind. It just says yes or no, and often it does not justify. And this is perceived often as a flight or fight mechanism. That means if somebody comes, if we perceive as threat, it becomes anger. And it acts. And sometimes what happens if there is no memory? Imagine if there is a being which is able to react but has no memory. Tomorrow, if the same animal comes, until unless it attacks, it will think that it is different. You understood what I'm telling, to make this subtle difference. Whereas we are blessed to have intellect, that means which is a combination of memory, what we see through the impulses of the mind, and we interpret and give a rational meaning to it. So today, tiger has attacked us. Tomorrow we see some tiger at far off, we run off. But imagine if there is an animal which has only mind, which has no memory, which has no intellect. Tomorrow, until unless if the tiger comes and attacks, it will behave same way. So that is how we difference. This is a subtle difference, but often we have to use, when we say, mind, we have often we use a combination of manomaya kosha and vijnanamaya kosha. That is what it is. And depending on the context, we have to split it. Like wherever rational thinking is involved, we have to bring in as a vijnanamaya kosha. Wherever just the reflex mechanism involved, we say it is mind.
Manomaya kosha. Thank you, doctor. Now the other question I had was when Dr. Satyanarayan was talking about the 4 mandatory sadhanas, samsara, nivritta, upaya. He spoke about vairagya, saranagati, sadguna, and Vedanta vichara. So you spoke about accepting choiceless situations. So is that what we mean when we cover the next slide of Lord grant me the serenity to accept things that I cannot change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference? Is that what accepting choiceless situations is?
Yes, that is what. So if we have anything from our side to do, we can as well. But if there is nothing, then we have to accept that situation also. So not accepting the situation will again disturb quite a lot. Mentally it quite a lot disturbs. And there is where, not having so much of attachment also comes. So not possible, no issues. Possible, no issues. So that way, if we can go on, and that is wisdom, how to differentiate whatever is possible to correct or change, and whatever not possible to change and accept. So knowing the difference between the two is wisdom, is what is told there. And this very much fits in with the sadgunas, whatever is described by the Krishna also.
So just curious to know then, because many times we are told, by The Secret and many other esoteric sciences that if your power of your intention is very strong, then you can make mountains move, figuratively. So how do we acquire, is there any easy way, or is it that, when I know there's no shortcut to, getting that wisdom to distinguish between the two? But in your experience, what would be a good way to get that wisdom, to be able to distinguish on what we can change and what we need to accept?
Again, depends on the situation as such. So and the abilities also, your understanding, abilities, and the situation all play a role there. So maybe if that is something which can be changed, you can go step by step and then change and see the results and assess yourself, analyze midway. If there is something progressive happening, then probably you can progress further and then go on. So yeah, there again lies little bit of understanding and this subtle difference. So we cannot even give up like that in between, and then say probably this is how it is, and keep accepting things, and not having our own efforts to change what we can also. So we have to know the difference and then move on.
So choiceless situations can change based on our growth also.
Yes.
I just want to add one thing in the same context with Ekde sir has explained about Asanga. One of the ways I learned, or I could get this strength, is that you start watching your own thoughts. Like if I become angry, instead of just reacting, you pause for a moment and think why I'm angry, who is angry, and what is it happening, and you respond appropriately. One common example we can give is, see, if my boss shouts at me, I can't shout back at my boss. I come and release that anger on our family. That is the common thing, And then I have started watching. What is the point in shouting or being angry at? If that is going to make a difference to the boss, then it is okay. That's what Swami Paramarthananda once says. If I curse somebody and that is going to make change a person, that I will curse him day and night. But it is not going to happen. So there is often what we do is we take our work home, we sit and think, oh, this is done, I should have done this. This is what is a sankalpa. This is the way it should be. I did like that. He should have. He's a different being. He does not react how I ask him to react. And the way we can do is accept things what we are. You see your boss is shouting every day is unreasonable. You have to think of moving out rather than releasing that energy onto somebody else. This is what I think where the idea of this asangaha helped me in my daily life. This is what I feel.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran.
Thank you. Any more questions? No? Well, if that's the case, then we will close the session. I request Ramesh to kindly propose a vote of thanks, followed by the Loka Samasta.